Patience, Director Abney, glad you could join us today. Go right ahead, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Director Abney, thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay. Just want to make sure you close me. Okay, we're good?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, sir.
We should put the Abneys and the Dabneys on different days because I think we're getting.
We got an Abby, a Dabney, and an Abney, so we're all spread out with knees. Go right ahead, Director.
Good evening, President Good, Vice President McCray, distinguished council members, fellow directors, the Honorable Mayor Adrian O'Map, and citizens of this great city. I'll just get right into my presentation. But I want to let you know I have a written presentation. I'm going to address recommendations by Cbac from 2021 that were put out there, and then I'll address the question I received from 2022. Plainfield Police Department has responded to 42,000 calls for service in 2021, which is down approximately 22,000 calls from 2019, pre-COVID-19. As COVID restrictions are relaxed and with the continued growth of our city, our calls for service will increase. When looking at traffic summonses, the department issued 11,880 tickets in 2021. But one of my main goals for 2022 is to improve the quality of life within our city. This can be achieved partly by taking an aggressive stance on traffic enforcement. During my first 2 weeks on the job, a much needed traffic unit was created. This unit has been very active and has motivated other officers to crack down on traffic violations throughout the city, such as speeding. For comparison, the police department wrote 3,016 tickets from January 1st, 2021 to April 12th, 2021. This year, the police department has written 6,427 tickets during that same time period. I want to make it clear that this is not about creating statistics. It is about the safety of the public. Cities that encourage traffic enforcement generally have lower crime rates. And I feel that individuals will think twice before coming to Plainfield to commit crimes if they will be pulled over for a motor vehicle violation. To move on to internal issues, one of our biggest issues at the police department is staffing. This is a nationwide issue as departments struggle to recruit and maintain officers. Currently, the department has 123 officers. In 2021, our staffing stayed around the same number. With 2 academies starting in June and July, for the first time in many years, I'm hoping to fulfill my full allocation of officers, bringing the department up to 136. This, however, may vary based on unanticipated resignations, but I am hopeful. The staffing of civilian positions has also been an issue. Burnout and sick time usage has created overtime problems. Shortage of staff has exacerbated that problem. In 2023, I'm hoping to hire additional dispatchers, bringing the total to 12. I believe this will drastically reduce overtime in the dispatch center, as I will not have to use police officers in civilian positions. This, in addition to a full complement of police officers, should reduce overtime costs across the board. Crossing guards have also been difficult to hire and maintain due to COVID-19. As you know, most of our crossing guards are senior members of our community. We currently have 30 crossing guards and need to hire another 12 to 16 to be at full staff. This creates a strain on our patrol division throughout the day as we have to cover crossing posts with officers while actively recruiting crossing guards. If anyone knows of someone who may be interested, please reach out to Captain Christopher Fortunka of the Administrative Bureau, and I also have other officers actively recruiting crossing guards. Next, I would like to discuss grants. So far this year, we have received funding for 3 grants. A COPS grants, which $500,000 were allocated for this fiscal year of 2022. Distracted driving, which was $10,500, and pedestrian safety, which was $15,000. And we are using these to continue our focus on making our roadways safer for pedestrians and the motoring public. We will continue to research grants to offset costs regarding our mission. All bureaus within the PD extend off of patrol. And saying that, the Service Bureau, Narcotics Bureau, and Special Operations Bureau serve vital functions as the needs of our community change. The Narcotics Bureau, for example, along with their regular duties, handled 569 firearms ID submissions, approving 439 of those after completing a thorough investigation of all applicants. The Quality of Life Task Force, which is a part of the Special Operations Bureau, addressed over 120 citizens' complaints ranging from issues such as illegal dumping, property maintenance issues, and illegal daycare centers, and resolved all 120 of those. The Quality of Life Task Force also addressed 146 Open Public Records Act requests. All requests were seen through to a resolution. The Service Bureau has received 361 expungement requests, many dealing with marijuana expungements. The Internal Affairs Bureau has received over 102 complaints, with 98 of those marked as closed complete. Now, the department overall has participated in numerous annual events, such as National Night Out and Abney Police Drives, and our commitment to our community. The police department currently has 75 vehicles. This is a main topic for me. 17 of those vehicles, 17 out of 75, are vehicles which are 5 years old or newer. The 58 remaining vehicles are out of warranty, with 47 of those vehicles having over 118,000 miles on them. 40 of those vehicles are over 10 years old, leading to rising costs for repairs, leading to rising costs of repairs. Now, out of those 17 vehicles I mentioned at the beginning of this, 8 of those vehicles run 24/7, 365 days a year until they are either put out for service for oil change and brake changes and regular maintenance, or they are involved in an accident or breakdown. In dealing with budget concerns, I feel a well-trained staff provides the best service to our citizens. As public employees, we must continue to educate ourselves in a rapidly changing environment. That starts with my office. I'm looking to continue training for my assistant and myself. To be an effective police executive, I must continue to train. My assistant must also sharpen her skills going forward, as changes to laws and how we conduct our business as an agency are constantly evolving. Law enforcement administrative professionals have conferences that are essential to enhancing her skills in 2022. I want to send my staff to this conference, as well as the newer members of our department. As our department continues to become younger, training is more and more important. As older officers age out or retire, they take valuable experience and training with them. I have to retrain or train these new officers so that they are up to speed, so I can provide the best services to the citizens of Plainfield as possible. The Queen City Mentoring Academy, which is a budget line item, did not take place in 2021 due to COVID-19. Instead, there were 5 barbecues hosted by the police department throughout the city and in different city parks. Okay, the funding for this academy is secured through ARPA funding, it was mentioned earlier. Okay, it will begin on July 11th for 3 weeks and will be held at the Hubbard School. Usually 75 to 80 children attend this academy, spending time with officers and building lifelong bonds in the process. Events such as this provide positive relationships between the city youth and the police. And other budget concerns, the majority of my budget is dedicated to salaries and wages, and there are contractual maintenance agreements that have to be honored. Planning scheduling software is paid every other year, and that's a budget line item, and this is our payment year. ShotSpotter gun detection software registered 176 alerts in 2021. This software is invaluable to our police mission. In one instance, ShotSpotter was partially credited with saving the life of a citizen. Now, COVID-19 continues to be a concern. The police building is manned 24 hours a day, with persons coming in and out of the building constantly. Persons who have been arrested can be in different states of medical or physical condition. Now, cleaning and sanitizing of the police department must occur. The costs have risen, but we have been able to keep the building clean and secure so far. That's my written presentation. Now, I have questions or budget recommendations from the 2021 Cbac meeting. I'm gonna read these. The department should have a breakdown, key performance indicators of crimes for the previous years. This should be broken down citywide and by wards. Methods and efforts should be taken and detailed to the public. This will make sure the budget requested is actually working or effective. Now, what I have done is I have tabulated this information that's requested here, and we are formulating an ongoing strategic plan for each ward in the city. Each ward has different issues, and these wards need different strategies to meet their goals. So that is being actively worked on, and once it's done, it will be released. A yearly forensic audit, this is the next question. A yearly forensic audit should be performed for the police department to evaluate what needs to be optimized and streamlined concerning operating budget costs. This is usually an item that wouldn't be handled under police director's purview, but I have some comments on it, and I think they will address some of this issue. In terms of our operating budget, it is streamlined as far as possible without cutting service. I will continue to look at options such as other vendors that we can use for possible savings, but we have eliminated as much fat in our operations budget as possible. The costs that we do have are contractual obligations that are needed to provide basic services in a computer-driven era. Maintenance contracts, upkeeps of systems are the basis of our operating budget, and we must maintain these systems to comply with federal or state law. Moving on. The questions I received from Cbac for 2022 are brief, so I'll move them briefly.
Right ahead.
Number one, it appears we will be adding 7 net new officers after the fiscal year 21 retirements, resignations, and transfers, but it doesn't look like we are replacing the retiring captain, lieutenants, or sergeant. All of those positions were actually replaced by promotions that took place in 2021 and one promotion that took place in 2022. We have 2 new captains for Tunker and Henderson. We have 4 lieutenants, Slaughter, Elamine, Lawson, and Morris, and we have 2 sergeants, Marilyn Acosta and Stephen Bailey. Question number 2, line item 104. Overtime is reduced from $1,000 versus $900 requested and $855,000 actual for 2021 with a question mark. The overtime costs addressed in this budget are being funded through ARPA funds, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. Now, question number 3, retirement compensation is 0 versus $223,000 actual for 2021. This continues to be a 0 budget line item as it's picked up through centralized funding in the main budget, and that has taken place over several years. Line item 251, safety supplies 0 versus 10,000 requested and 3,000 actual for 2021. That is ARPA funding. Number 253, medical exams and supplies 0 versus 30,000 requested and 27,000 actual for 2021. That is the American Rescue Plan Act as well. That money mainly takes care of the medical exams that we have for new hires, whether they are police officers, dispatchers, police aides, anyone who comes into the building that needs to have a medical exam or a psychological exam. A lot of that funding and stuff is done under there. It also includes fitness for duty funding. Number 6, line item 265, vehicles. What caused the 167% overage in the current year, and why is 2022 budgeted at 17% less than the 2021 budgeted amount? Transferred funds at the end of the year replaced those vehicles. The cost of one police vehicle is estimated, and this is based on last year, at $75,000 to $80,000 fully equipped with all the equipment, the radio, the lights, the sirens, the back cage to contain prisoners. So the $90,000 there basically will only afford us one vehicle, and that would be at last year's numbers. The cost of police vehicles has risen, and actually at this time, because of the chip shortage, the vehicles that we have ordered have not arrived as of yet. The other part of that money is the cost of auto parts has increased due to supply and demand. Most of these parts wind up going on the vehicles that we have running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. Item number 7, 353 on the budget line. Community programs cadets 0 versus 3,500 requested and 5,000 actual for 2021. Is this program being eliminated? That is talking about the Queen City Academy, which I already discussed. There's a question here about crossing guards. $404,500 is 35% over the 2021 budget and 142% over 2021 actual. I read that pay was increased in 2021, but this increase seems high based on the 2021 actual. Crossing guards increased, it says, I'm short crossing guards. We only have 30 as of right now. We probably need about 45 to actively cross kids safely throughout the city. The reason that the numbers are the way they are is that last year at one point we were down to 20 crossing guards. So there's only payment for those 22, 23, or 4 people. As the number of guards we hire and maintain stay on the job, this number will go up. So that's where the fluctuation is. Okay. I'm trying to get close to that number, but I need more staff. Those are the questions that I got from Cbac. Now, this is the question I got through Honorable Councilwoman Terry Bridge Jones. Is there a difference between last year's budget and the proposed budget for this year? Okay, most of my changes are mainly through increases in salary and wages as we move forward, and also overtime issues. Has manpower been increased or decreased? Okay, manpower is basically the same. At this time last year, we were around 124, 125. Now we're at 123. So it's basically the same, but with retirements and resignations, I have to create a succession plan. That's why I'm trying to hire up to our top level. That way, if we lose people, I can still effectively man different things that we need to do throughout the city to make people safe, or to keep people safe, and to also address the influx of new residents coming into our city. It says, to assist you, do you need other things such as uniforms, gloves, boots, etc.? If there were additional funds that could be allocated for the same, please give us an example. My uniform budget is stable. That's one thing that I don't have really an issue with right now. A lot of we just replace uniforms if officers damage them, if they get in a fight and the uniform gets torn, if it gets bloody or there's some issue with it, we replace those. Other than that, they have a uniform allowance that they use to maintain and get more uniforms outside of when people first come on the job. Now, next question is, has there been anything cut from your budget that might be of importance right now? My answer is no. Now, after the meetings, that may change, but for right now, my answer is no. In brief, what changes are you asking for in this new budget? Nothing as of this budget. Next year, I'm looking for creative ways to address our police vehicle issue. That could be possibly through leasing. And also, I'd be looking for ways to outfit the COP unit, which will require uniforms, bikes, and other needed outlays. I will also be looking to add 5 new auxiliaries in 2023. This is a great community-based operation. It builds teamwork and camaraderie with citizens in the community, and in the past it has worked very well. I'm looking to refund that, and also I would need to cover the outlays regarding them, outfitting them with uniforms, outfitting them with guns and weapons and other things that they may need. And that is basically the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Director Abney, thank you so much for that presentation. And as we move to my council colleagues, I will ask Councilwoman Terry Bridge Jones, were you satisfied with those answers that Director Abney supplied you?
Yes, thank you, Director Abney, and thank you for answering my questions in brief and explaining to my colleagues as well as the public. Thank you.
Council President,
Can I jump in for 1 second? I'm sorry. Councilman McKenna, I'm sorry. When I went over the Cbac budget recommendations from 2021, there's some other questions here that I forgot to answer. Can I answer those real quick?
Yes, you can. Director, go right ahead.
Okay. There's a question here. All new hires should reside in the city of Plainfield. Let me go through that. Per civil service guidelines, all cities and towns under the Civil Service Commission have a residency requirement. The city of Plainfield is a civil service city. The issue is that the residency requirement is only until the date of appointment, which means that you have to live in Plainfield through the hiring process. But once you are sworn as an officer, you can live anywhere you please within the state of New Jersey. You just cannot live out of the state of New Jersey. That is why many of our officers, as well as other officers in other urban areas, live out of town. Okay. Currently, when the Plainfield list is exhausted, meaning that we have no more candidates on that list, We have to then go to the county police list and then the state list for municipal officers. On these lists, there are generally no Plainfield residents, okay? So that means that we can only available, and these are the only means we have available to hire new officers. Also, as previously discussed, there's an officer shortage throughout the country. I am currently operating with a 10% sworn officer shortage. That equals out to 13 officers. 13 officers short puts the department in a position where I cannot provide certain services such as a COP unit and cohesively address issues in our downtown area. It also doesn't allow me to effectively staff a police substation or other units that are necessary to be more aggressively proactive in crime reduction. This year is an outlier, okay, whereas I have to rely on county and state hiring lists to staff the department. Our current Plainfield list has 4 names on it currently, and we're going through that list right as we speak. Even if all of those 4 names were seen through and they were hired and they went through the background checks and they met all of our requirements, I still have 9 vacancies that I have to fill, okay? If I waited for a new civil service list to come out for the city of Plainfield, okay, I would not have the new officers ready to work on their own until sometime in the spring or summer of 2024. That puts the department in a precarious situation. I have no choice at this time but to hire the best people I can within state law. That was the answer to the hiring question. Now, create new ways police can connect with the public and increase awareness in the community. As I said, as we try to bring back units such as COP, our outreach within the community will increase. Police officers need to be a part of the city's landscape, walking, riding bikes, and interacting with seniors and citizens in every ward. Seniors and children in every ward. I have the plans, but I need the staff. Once staffing is increased, we will look to have many stations in the Joanne Hollis Public Housing Complex. We have a space there that's been given to us by the Housing Authority. We can use that. We'll look to put something in the downtown district and also something along the South Avenue corridor. And those will be staffed with COP officers. And that completes my presentation. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much, Director.
Council President, before we go,
Councilman McKenna, we're going in the same order that we went in.
I was just going to ask if, because I think
well, you will have that opportunity after.
No, it's not a question of mine. I'm just asking if I think it's important because Director Abney mentioned it twice in his presentation. But I think when he went through the numbers, it was very quick because he knows the numbers. If he repeated the vehicle numbers again, but a little slower for us that are.
Okay, and when we get to when we get to you, then he can do that. But right now, we're going to move to Councilwoman Ashley Davis.
Ma'am.
Why, thank you. Director Director Abney, I'm sorry. What a thorough presentation that was. So I know you talked about staff development and training for not only you, but your executive assistant. But when I looked at the budget, in terms of travel or official business reimbursements, as well as staff development and training, it was 0. So are ARPA funds going to be used towards that? Or was it just not allocated for this year?
I thought I had $6,000 there. No?
Oh, wait, I take it. Wait, no, for the police department, you have 2,500, but for your office, it has 0 for travel and official reimbursement. And then under other expenses, you have 6,000. Is that going towards training?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So it's just in the wrong place. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a difference in salary and wages for the actual police department. Do you know why there is a difference between what you requested and what the administration is recommending?
I don't have the exact figures in front of me. I know that $500,000 out of salary and wages is a part of the COPS grant. That we have that money for 3 years. It gradually goes down year to year. I know $500,000 of it is that. The other funding, I don't know the exact numbers. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I think it's about 500,000. So that makes sense. And could you repeat slowly the numbers when it comes to the cars and stuff so we can get that out the way, please?
Yes, we have 75 police vehicles, okay? 17 of those are 5 years old or newer. That leaves 58 vehicles. Out of those 58 vehicles, let me make sure I do it right. 47 of those vehicles have over 118,000 miles on them. Okay, and out of that same 47 vehicles, 40 of those are over 10 years old. This leads to a lot of our repairs and issues and problems that we have with our vehicles. They're old, they're beaten up. Some of them are 20 years old. It's a problem.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have for tonight.
Councilman Hockaday?
Yes, Director Abney, just want to commend you on a very fine and thorough written presentation. It was very
Thank you, sir.
My main concern is just the overtime. I know that it kind of gets away from us year after year. If you could just go into a little bit more what strategies you have to kind of limit the overtime. And I know you're in a tough place because I'm sure, our officers like overtime. I mean, but there's plenty of overtime out there. I guess it just depends on what type of overtime, particularly, overtime where they have to do civilian jobs, ends up being costly to the city. And not really that efficient. So if you could just talk about some strategies towards getting us through that, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. One of the biggest problems we have is that as we work through our hiring process, we still have to meet the needs of the city. So that I have some mandatory overtime assignments that I must cover. So in the patrol division, to just give an example, at many points throughout the day, I have a mandatory minimum of officers that I have to have on the street per contract to meet the needs of the city, to answer calls for service, and so on. As we lose officers either through resignation or retirement, okay, that puts a strain on the number of people that I have to fill these positions. That's why I'm looking, the biggest way to fix overtime in the city is for me to hire up to the top of my table of organization, which is 136. And then even by doing that, I still won't really reap the benefits of it for another year or so, because it takes that long for an officer to be prepared to actually go out on the street on his own and answer calls for service. This is what I was mentioning before. If when I was talking about residency, if I hired an officer today and the academy starts in June, okay, from that June date, it takes me approximately a year for that officer to be able to get into a Plainfield police vehicle by himself and answer calls for service. And that is getting through the academy and through our coach training period that we have once they graduate from the academy. That creates the biggest overtime problem that we have in terms of the patrol division. The other problem is within dispatch. Dispatch does not have enough personnel for us to adequately meet the needs of the city. So we constantly have an overtime issue in dispatch. Part of it is also because of the scheduling that they work. The schedule that they work is a 4-2 schedule, which is something that I'm going to change, but it puts them in a position where they are constantly working. They work for 4 days. They may have a day off if they want to take a day off. I may be short coverage and they may work a day for us. So they work 5 days, then they have 1 day off to complete all their business, take care of their home, take care of their children, and do everything that they need to do, and then they're right back here at work. That's a problem. And that has created the overtime issue that we have. If we hire 12 dispatchers, where I can work a 4-on-4 schedule, I can put 6 people on one side and 6 people on the other, it's magic, it'll work.
Is that the best solution?
That I see, yes. There's no, without hurting services that we provide to the citizens, that I can only hire to fix these issues. Those are the best solutions that I see at this time.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman McKenna.
Yes, so Director Abney, first of all, I'm just going to say in 3 years on the council and budget hearings and 1 as a Cbac member, I've never seen a director refer to a prior Cbac recommendation list. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you, sir.
I do want to ask you, first of all, the cars you're replacing, you're going to replace with the sedans or you go towards the Explorer SUV?
I think we're going to go with the SUVs for now.
And how many?
That's what we have ordered.
Okay, so we have, I think we just approved, is it 9 that we just voted for recently? For you to get? Hopefully you're gonna get them all. It was said it was going to the police department, sometimes they end up elsewhere.
I have, I'm sorry?
It was a bond ordinance. I think there were 9.
I know I have 4 on back order. They're all going to patrol. They're all going to the patrol.
This was our last meeting, so you might be considering others.
I'm considering others from the past.
Okay.
Right now,
West?
I can't, I'm not sure, but as far as I know, they will all go to patrol.
So let me ask you this.
They're gonna go into the patrol bureau.
Okay, so if they're the SUVs, how many of these do we have in our capital improvement budget, which is a 6-year budget? 6-year plan, not a 6-year budget, but a 6-year plan that the city manages, that the city does and manages through the planning board. How many, because that would be considered a capital improvement, those SUVs. How many do we have slated for the coming years? Director West, would you know that?
I'm looking to bring it up now. I can tell you that the budget doesn't show a full replacement of those over the 6-year period is the ultimate answer to your question.
Okay.
There are vehicles that were purchased through the operating budget. There are vehicles in the capital budgets, but that doesn't come anywhere close to the 47.
And I know that in prior years, we don't have a capital improvement plan like we used to have that went out 6 years. It's all ad hoc. So you've literally got 63% of your vehicles are at any given time, Director, could end up useless.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's a problem because not having officers is a big problem. Not having officers to have a vehicle to go do anything is even bigger problem. But my big question is, and I skipped a lot of this because you kind of answered everything or touched on it in a general way, but I'm curious if you've got, and the way I'm looking at it, I'd just like to know how you solve it because I know you're, kind of jumping in new to this. Over the last 2 years between retirements and resignations, you're running at about 18 a year. Mostly resignations, then you've got retirements, which are going to happen. People put their time in. I looked back at my notes from the budget session last year, and I honestly was having a hard time reading my notes because I scribbled a couple of things. But it was either 8 or 10 people coming out of the academy. How do you get to 136 when you're losing, on average over the last 2 years, 18? You're losing 8 a year at that rate, right?
Well, a couple of things. Let me jump in. One thing is, in terms of the vehicles, if we go to a leasing program, it may solve some of our problems where we don't have to constantly finance, but then that's a whole nother conversation. The vehicles we have for the patrol mission, we can still do our job. The other vehicles for narcotics bureau, detectives, and different things like that, those are where most of our dinosaur vehicles are. So we can still get to our calls and we can still effectively answer calls for service. It's just that, some of these other vehicles have issues with them. Now, to go into what you were just asking me about, actually, since I've come back At least one person has inquired about coming back to the department. I spoke to some other people who are looking to come back here. So I don't think that, I think I'll be able to stem the tide with people leaving. The morale is good. I think things are going in the right direction. So I'm confident I can get very close to 136.
In what time frame?
I'm hoping to do it this year.
By the end of this year, you can get from 123 to 136?
I just have to hire 13 people.
And how come, or how, maybe we do this, I don't know that I've heard it, but why do we not do lateral hires like other departments? Because a lot of our resignations went to other police departments in the state area, metropolitan area of Plainfield. How do we not poach them?
Several reasons. Most departments, especially suburban departments, are looking for seasoned officers because of the George Floyd situation. A lot of departments are looking to hire minority officers, and a lot of these departments pay at a higher wage scale than we can afford to pay within the city of Plainfield.
And do they have different steps as well?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Do they have a different number of steps than we do as well between that and the way?
I don't know. Every department varies. It depends on the PBA and contract negotiations and different things that really are out of my control. But I know that a lot of times, a lot of these departments, they take on officers from other places. They're well-trained. They've worked in urban areas. They understand a lot about police work, and they can pay them significantly more than we can. And and whether it's steps or it's not steps, it's still a lot more money than we can just afford to pay. It's that we have to think of the citizens of the city when we negotiate contracts. So we have to be cognizant of what we're doing across the board. East Orange, Irvington, other departments, I talk to their directors, they have the same problems. They're losing officers at an alarming rate because they don't have the financial resources to pay what a Franklin or another town can.
So you think by the end of the year you can get to the 136?
I'm praying.
In cars, 136. Or in uniform.
Listen, with the current chip shortage, I'll be lucky to get the 4 that we ordered last year before December.
Okay, so 136 in uniforms walking around a bike. Whatever.
No, 136 in different stages, either in the academy or somewhere else, but they'll be on the payroll.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then my last question on this, only because it relates to Director Abney's capital improvement quandary, is if Director West could send me the capital improvement budget when he gets an opportunity, the long-term one.
Certainly, and in response to your question, the answer is 4 vehicles are in the capital improvement ordinance.
Was that from last meeting? Didn't we have a bond ordinance?
Yes.
That had,
Yeah, and it's purchase of 4 fully equipped non-passenger
SUVs?
utility vehicles for the police department.
That would give me 8, which would help a lot.
Oh, that's 4 in addition to the 4 that director thinks.
That's correct.
All right, so you got 8.
Yes.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, Director West and Director Abney.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Mills Ransom. I believe you're muted.
Thank you, President. Director Abney, just one small question. I know you said you needed in the double digits crossing guards, but as you were talking about the overtime, you didn't mention them, and I don't know. So the question is, do they also affect your overtime? The absence of them?
They can. When I don't have crossing guards to man crossing posts, I have to put officers out there. I mean, in most cases, I'm pulling people out of the building. I'm using patrol officers to do that, but sometimes I have to hold officers over from the night shift to make sure that I have enough officers here to effectively cross children. So yes, it can be a part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that all, Councilwoman?
Yes,
Mills
it
Ransom?
is. It was a
Okay.
very thorough report and lots
Yes,
of
it was.
questions before me, you know. so
Yes, it was.
Ma'am.
Vice President McCray.
Director Abney, thank you for a very thorough presentation,
Thank you, sir.
very enlightening, and to see that you're doing a great job, only being on the job a short period of time of getting your arms around the things that we need to move the department forward. And, you know, all I can say is that I'm pleased with your presentation and most of my questions have been answered.
Thank you, sir.
Director Abney, I would have to say that was a very, very thorough presentation, probably one of the best that I've heard since I've been on the council.
Thank you, sir.
I concur with Vice President McCray. You hit the ground running, and I'm pretty sure my colleagues will agree that you're doing a fantastic job. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Cbac Chair Bright, were you satisfied with the answers that you received? And if you were, are there any more questions that you would like to ask Police Director Abney?
Thank you, Council President. Director Abney, that was a very thorough presentation, and no, there are no additional questions from Cbac.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So at this point, since there are no more questions from council colleagues and the Cbac committee, we're going to move to citizens participation. And a total of 30 minutes have been allocated for public comments. If you wish to be heard, please hit the hand icon to be recognized and you will be unmuted. Once unmuted, please give your name and address for the record. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. The floor is now open. Going once, going twice. May I have a motion to close public comment? Is there a second?
Second, for you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all for participating on this evening. To Director Abney and Director Dabney